Kansas City, Kansas police officer, undercover operative, 5th, 6th, and 7th degree karate black belt in multiple disciplines, award-winning actor, dojo owning, painter, poet, coffee connoisseur. We are Barstool Breakdowns, and he is Santiago Vasquez.
Well, thank you for pronouncing my name properly.
Hey, man.
Love it.
Great to have you in the studio, brother.
30 years, buddy. That's what
I know,
happens
right?
after 30 years.
Isn't that
30
insane?
years.
Santiago
And you admit to
Vasquez.
knowing him for 30 years.
30 years. He hasn't changed much, other than the gray hair.
Yeah. He hasn't aged much mentally
And
either.
there's more of me.
And there is more of you. That's right.
Thank you for being here.
No, I'm honored. I'm
I
honored.
was telling you earlier, you're our first in-house guest.
What a great honor.
It's
Like
awesome.
a virgin.
Like a virgin.
Looking for a good time?
Always. We've been looking for that. We excited to have. We've been looking forward to this. Well, since you actually told me weeks ago that you would do it. So,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we've definitely been looking forward to it. So. We want to get into like who you are, man. We want to find out who you are, like what your background is. We want to talk about because you were born in Venezuela.
I was born and raised in the city of Cumaná, which is actually the oldest city founded by the Spaniards in the American continent and the whole entire continent.
Wow.
You know the history. Christopher Columbus arrived in the islands, the Greater, the Minor, and Antilles, but it wasn't until the third trip that he actually arrives in what we know today as Venezuela.
Oh, gotcha.
And the city of Cumaná, which is in the state of Sucre, in Venezuela, that's what I was born and raised until I was 18 years old. And on September 22nd, 1982, I arrived in the United States of America at the John F. Kennedy Airport in New York City via the non-existent airlines Pan American Airlines.
Oh, yeah. Pan Am. Yep.
Pan
They
Am.
gone.
A lot of the, basically it came to an end because of all the terrorist attack that he suffered. That's the truth. That's a fact.
Pan Am was the target.
Pan Am.
Huh?
It was a target
Wow.
for several times, as a matter of fact. But, I consider myself a very lucky, blessed man. The fact that I came to this country, I couldn't speak English. I have an accent, but the accent...
I can't hear it at all.
it makes me a Latin lover.
Oh.
That's my mind. I sound like, to all the girls I love.
Oh, little Julio.
The Julio Iglesias.
Yes.
Julio and Willie.
I can't
I can be
sing,
Willie.
but I'm very lucky, very blessed. So if you do the math, this coming September is going to be my 41st year in the U.S. Yeah. In the U.S.
So at 18, you're in Venezuela. What made you like say, "Hey, I'm packing up and I'm heading out"?
Well, what happened was my stepdad. He was originally from Messina, Sicily. He was actually a mechanical engineer, very smart man, highly educated man. He was 25 years older than my mom. He left Italy after the Second War. He fought in Mussolini's army.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And what is amazing is that my dad never spoke about the war, very seldom. I think he was tormented by what he saw. And he will tell me that when you're fighting, when you're at war, you are no longer fighting for your country. You are fighting to save yourself. And as a matter of fact,
Survive.
you're fighting to survive. I sent a quote yesterday to a couple of my students. The quote is by Lieutenant General Hall Moore. He's very famous because he was portrayed by Mel Gibson.
You're right.
And
We were soldiers.
we were soldiers. And the quote goes like this. An American soldier in battle don't fight for what some president says on TV. They don't fight for mom, apple pie, American flag. They fight for one another. That reminded me of my dad. Right. It was my dad. To me, he was my father.
Right.
Because he was the one who raised me. I was telling you the story that I was born out of wedlock, and my father was never in my life. I mean, I'm grateful
Right.
that he at least put the cement for me to be here. So,
planted his seed.
Planted the seed and
He did his
fled the
5 seconds
seed.
duty.
Fled the seed like a
Planted
thief in
the
the
seed
night.
and fled the seed.
And fled the sea like a thief in the night. But my stepfather and my mom had come to the U.S. I believe it was in 1977, 78.
Oh, so they came before
They
you
came
did.
before. They came with my little brother Juan and my little sister Adriana. My brother Juan just retired, not even a year ago, from the Rake Bank, New Jersey Police Department. He was a lieutenant. And they came before us, and it took about 5 years before my brother AJ Asdrubal. Nobody calls him Asdrubal. Nobody can pronounce his name, so everybody calls him AJ Asdrubal Jose. So AJ.
Yeah.
And we are a very blessed family. We come from a very humble, modest background. And I'm in love with this country. I want to say that straightforward. I'm in love with this country. Everything that I have, from the time that I was 18 years old until now, I own it to this country. Even though I know that I have earned it,
Right.
I own it to this country.
It provided you the opportunities.
Yes,
That, right.
the opportunities are there. Do I want to have $1 billion in my pocket? Yes. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Only $1 million?
Yeah, $1 billion. I said $1 billion.
He said it was a Venezuelan million. Pronounced billion.
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 But the deal is also this. What if you can manage the 2 cents that you have in your pockets? You always have to ask yourself that question. And I'm a man of faith. I might not be going to church every day, but I'm also a firm believer that you're given in accordance to your needs.
Amen.
And you have to be a stewardship of whatever you possess.
Right.
If you have $2, make sure that you take care of those $2. And hopefully out of those $2, even if it's a penny, you're using that penny to help somebody else. That's me. That's just my belief. And whatever I have accomplished, I have not done it by myself. I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. My stepdad, my mom, the people that somehow believed in me, and they say, hey, man, I think you can do this. I always tell my kids, 50% of the time, I don't know what the hell is going on. The other 50, I'm trying to figure it out. I live my life like that. If I can't do it, I'm going to give it a try. Am I afraid sometimes? All the time. I'm scared.
Sure.
But this is how we got here. We got here because of my stepdad. He had a brother who was here, who petitioned him. And his brother was also an electrical engineer from Italy. He was born in the U.S. in the early 1900s when the war began. He told my stepdad, Giuseppe Sardo, that was his name. That's a great name, Giuseppe Sardo.
I was going to say, the names in these other countries are way more eloquent.
Easy for you to say.
Eloquent.
Yeah, exactly. And beautiful than like John Smith. Our names over here suck and are not sexy whatsoever. But Santiago Vasquez,
That's a great name.
Well, plus,
that's a porn name right there.
You just said it. That's right.
The other thing, and I told you this the other day, for somebody who did not come to this country being able to even speak the language.
Yeah.
I said, I told Matt the other day, so one thing you're going to notice when you talk to him.
Enunciate.
He's
Every word.
very clear about enunciating every syllable, it is like, it's very intentional.
Well, I had a
his
great
English
teacher.
is way better than ours.
Oh, yes.
Well, I had a great teacher. I had a great teacher in high school, Mrs. Marotta, an American-Italian lady who was my ESL, English as a second language teacher. And we'll do all these crazy exercises. She says, take your time, take a deep breath, speak slowly, and pronounce the word properly, enunciate the words. And then when I went to college, I was blessed. I went to college in the United States. And my first 2 years in college was nothing but English as a second language.
Where did you go, Santiago?
I went to Brookdale Community College in Lincroft, New Jersey. I went to a community college there, graduated from there, and ultimately I got my bachelor's degree in business administration from Baker University.
Sure.
So how long were you on the East Coast?
I was in the East Coast for 5 years. And it's tough. A lot of people think...
until 23. 23-ish?
Yes, 23.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Think about this, right? Think about being 18 years old, packing a little suitcase with your brother. You get on Pan American Airlines. We're so freaking scared. It is my second time on a plane. First time for my brother. I flew on a plane for 10 minutes when I was about 12 or 13 years old from the mainland to the island of Margarita where my mom was, where the chicken plucker is from. And what a story. But we were so scared. We were actually, I believe we were flying on a 747 and we fell asleep. And so to this day, Pan American Airline owes me lunch because I never got my lunch. I fell asleep. We were so scared.
Probably never gonna get it.
And,
I don't think it's happening.
So it was a blessing that we came with our documents. We were documented immigrants. That was the blessing. Not because we had money. No. Because my father was a working man when he came to the United States, and I was from the time that I was 18 to the time that I became a police officer, I was constantly working. The first dollar that I made in the U.S., the first dollar, was on January 1st, 1983. How do I know that? Because it snowed. We had a snowstorm in New Jersey. I'd never seen the snow in my life.
Had you ever even seen snow?
Never seen the snow in my life. And my stepdad woke me up and he says, "Hey, you guys need to see this." And there was snow everywhere. So he got a couple of cups, and I think it was some kind of a sherry syrup that he put on. He says, "Try that," and we ate it. And it's like 5:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. An hour later, a couple of friends from high school knock on the door. One was from Panama, and the other one was from Costa Rica, Anthony and Omar. And he says, "Hey, you guys want to make some money?" I said, "How?" "Get your shovels. We're going to shovel the driveways of all the old people. We're going to make some money." So we shovel from like 7 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And after that, we all went to McDonald's to eat with the money that we made. And let me tell you something: when you are an immigrant and you never been to McDonald's, McDonald's became a great place to go. This is not a commercial for McDonald's, but that was the place to go.
Tastes like America.
Oh Jesus! You're part of Americana for the love of God.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you travel from Kansas City to another. You go to coast to coast.
Yeah.
No matter you know that you're in a civilized place when you see McDonald's. Oh, civilization!
But you can't get beer in McDonald's in the United States.
No, that's true.
You can get it at Taco Bell now.
That's
Some of
true.
them.
You can?
Some of them.
Some of them, some.
Yeah,
under
I
the
think
border.
so, yeah.
Taco Bell Cantina.
Oh God.
That's right. So anyhow, we got paid. We divided the money. We ate together, and after I got done, I got paid. I think I ended up with $23 and 27 cents, something like that.
Right.
And look, I worked at a Chinese restaurant. I was a dishwasher. I cooked the white rice. I dig the egg rolls, and I deliver food on the bicycle. So I done it all. I've been a janitor. And that's the beauty of being in the United States. You get paid, You get paid. That's the way it is.
You wanted to work.
I
You
wanted to
wanted
work.
to do it. You
I wanted to
yeah.
work, and I'm a firm believer that I am entitled to nothing.
Right.
I'm entitled to nothing. That if I want something, I have to work for it.
These are the kind of Americans that we need.
Well, thank you.
I'm just being honest.
No, listen, it's not a perfect place.
No, it's
but
not.
it's better.
Nowhere is.
It's better than being where I was born and raised.
Right.
Because right now it's a total mess where I was born and raised.
So you're on the East Coast, busting your butt to make any dollar any way that you can. Well, not anyway, but you know what I mean.
Legally.
busting your butt to make any dollar that you can make. How does Kansas City come on the map for that?
Well, I was previously married, my first marriage. I was married to, as a matter of fact, this is not a commercial for them, but my ex-wife, Maria,
yeah,
she's part of the founders of Italian Delight, which is an iconic place.
Oh. Right.
And the whole entire, especially here in Kansas City, Kansas, probably the best pizzeria in town. If you love Italian food, quick food, that's where you go.
Nick Bernetti was
Nick,
one that
Nick, my father-in-law, who was an amazing man with a great heart.
Yeah.
You know, I had nothing bad to say about him. I loved him. As a matter of fact, I'm still in touch with them to this day.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes things don't work.
Sure.
You know, and that's life. So I came here with.
Didn't work for us twice.
So, woo, knock on wood.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So that's how I came here. I came here because my ex-wife and we came together, and
So did you guys met?
we met in Venezuela. We actually trained karate together. We met at the karate dojo in Venezuela.
Okay, so kind of a similar thing because her family was from Venezuela, right? And her dad was from Italy, right?
Yeah, her dad is from Italy.
Nick's from Italy.
Yes, he's actually from a town in southern Italy called Mola de Bari. That's where he's from.
Watching him and Maria, mom was Maria too.
Maria, yes.
And watching those two, they would come into my office and watching those
Yes.
two communicate. It was
It was tough.
he was such a little. He'd always have those glasses on.
Those
He'd have them
glasses
pushed
down,
down on the
yes.
end of his nose, and he'd be looking over the top of me.
Yes. And his brother is Francesco. Francesco,
Yeah.
you know, Frank. Everybody
Yeah.
calls him Frank. Frank Brunetti.
Yeah.
You know. So that's how I got here. You know, and when I was here, you know, I did it all. You name it, you have to survive. You know, and ultimately, I was working at Italian Delight at Indian Springs.
Was it
Mall.
Indian Springs then?
Indian
Yeah,
Springs.
yeah.
There was, I don't know if you know him, Joe Ward. Joe Ward. He's a retired major with the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department.
Yeah.
A great man. A man that without his support and the support of a lot of the guys that they rooted for me and they pushed for me. They say, hey man, Santiago, you know, you're bilingual. You got a college degree. You should apply for the police department. I was reluctant because being a police officer here is totally different from being a police officer in a third world country. My mom used to scare the crap out of me when I was a kid. She used to tell me, quote, what is it that you want to be what is it that you want to be in life? You want to be a dog killer? That's why they call police officers.
Oh, dog killer?
Yeah. Mata perros. Mata perros, dog killers. Policía mata perros. And because of the level of education is very little. All that you needed to have was a 6th grade education to be just a regular municipal police officer.
Wow.
And, you know, listen, I am telling you, people, look, I spent 27 years of my life in the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department. I never, ever shot anybody. I never killed anybody. I never violated anybody's civil rights. And I'm going to tell you this straightforward from the bottom of my life. 99.9% of the officers that are working in the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department are honest, professional people.
Of course.
Honest, professional people. If you were rotten, if you were an idiot, you got fired.
Well, they weed themselves out.
And I
pretty
saw
quick.
that. I witnessed that with my own eyes. You know, and look, in my last 4 years in the Kansas City, in my last two years in the police department, were very tough. Mm-hmm. Very, 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 very tough. Man, I'm sorry. I don't want to get emotional.
No, it's, yeah.
We lost.
I say I think I know the years you're talking about.
We lost Detective Brad Lancaster. Mm-hmm. We lost Captain Dave Melton. I was the arresting officer.
On that shooting?
On that. I lost my dear friend, Teresa King. Mm-hmm. Teresa King was in my dojo, in my little dojo, the night before she was shot and killed.
Yep.
You're good.
Take your time, man.
Yeah.
That night, I was her daughter's teacher for 3.5 years. Mm-hmm. Her little daughter. I don't want to mention her name because
No, it's fine.
she's a minor.
Sure.
That night, when she saw me, she always called me Sensei. And I've been knowing her from the time that she got on the sheriff department. She was so excited. She said, "Sensei, I got a new job. I got a new job." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And she said to me, "I'm going to be the new SRO for Edwardsville and Bonner Springs." she always took pictures or recorded her little daughter training with us. And so that was June 14th, the last day she was at the dojo. I always told her every night I would say to her, "Hey girl, be safe." And Teresa King she was an amazing person, lovely, tough, tobacco chewing, cowboy wearing boots, and truck driver.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and says, "I promise to be safe. I promise to be safe." You know, I was already making plans to retire from the police department. And I remember that the morning of June 15th, she's been gone for 5 years now. I was on my way to getting ready to go to Capers in Topeka to check my numbers. Mm-hmm. And she sends me a text with a video of her daughter training martial arts with us. And I said, "Wow, this is awesome. This is great." You know, she was kicking. So I get in my car and she says to me, "I wish you would listen to me the way she listens to you." And I said, "Look, girl, I am the almighty benevolent dictator sensei. She has to listen to me, otherwise she won't get promoted." So I get to Topeka and doing all my paperwork. And the lady that was taking care of me in Topeka, she says, "Man, officer, if you stay here for another 2 or 3 years, you'll be lucky that if after taxes you get another $120 per month in your check."
Horrible.
I called my wife and she said, "Get ready to pack your bags. You're done."
Yeah, not worth it.
It is an amazing job, but it's a job that affects your life.
Oh, has
It's
to.
a job that will give you PTSD. It's a job that makes you hyper vigilant. It is a job that teaches you to trust no one. It is a job that teaches you to answer a question with a question. And I was there when I got a phone call from now retired Sergeant Jose Vieira. You probably know him. I don't know if you know Jose.
I know the name. I don't know him personally.
Jose Vieira.
Yeah.
He was pushing. He was for the last 2 years. He was telling me, Chago, Santiago. Everybody calls me Chago. He says, "Chago, man, you need to let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here while we'll have our sanity." And when he calls me, I answer the phone and I looked at the lady working behind that was helping me out with the paperwork. And I said, "Man, why are you calling me? I'm retiring." He says, "Bro," he says, Chaguito, "I want you to sit down." I said, "Man, I'm retiring, fool." He said, "No, I want you to sit down." I said, "Man," I said, "What's going on?" I said, "Sit down. I got something important to tell you. I don't want you to hear this from anybody else. It's very important and it's very critical that I tell you this." I said, "Man, you scared me. What the hell's going on?" And that's when he said that Teresa King and Patrick had been shot and she was probably dead.
And they were doing a prisoner like exchange transport.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you this truthfully. What kills us, what kills police officers is human error. Complacency kills police officers. You know, we're supposed to expect the unexpected. You know, you're not just a law enforcement officer. You're not just a peace officer. Sometimes you are a teacher. You're a mentor. You're a social worker. And she was shot on June 15th, and they kept her alive, you know, medically speaking, until June 16th when they disconnected her Now, the irony of all that is that I got hired on the police department on June 16th, 1990.
Wow.
That was the irony of it. That she
circle,
dies
quite
on
a
the
day.
day of my anniversary, of my hiring anniversary as a police officer. So, you know, to this day, it affects me. And then shortly thereafter, I lost another co-worker, Brandon Collins. Brandon and I worked with the DEA Taskforce, the Drug Enforcement Administration. Together, we were co-workers. He got rear-ended. The car blew up. Thank God, they say that he died instantly from the impact. Probably suffered a broken neck. That's my understanding.
Just a happenstance of a random accident, or was it?
He was conducting a motor vehicle stop when a drunk driver hit it from behind, and his vehicle was engulfed. On fire. And then, God, I can never. I'm horrible sometimes. Mike was from Overland Park. The Overland Park Police Department. Mike, I had a chance to work with Mike when I was in the training academy as an adjunct instructor with my partner William Barajas, and we were doing a lot of work with kids. And Mike was a great guy, and we were working in conjunction with the Boy Scouts of America. He got killed in a shootout. You know, shootout with a guy that had a stolen vehicle from KCK. So you know, you live through that. You live through live through the mystery of
Every day that you go to work.
every day, everything that you see is mystery. You know, and you go, man.
So you mentioned the DEA. So you did Undercover.
Yes, I did.
Too, for a while.
I did.
Which is
Nearly
super highly
nearly a
dated.
decade of
Was
my
that
life.
in conjunction with the DEA, or was that in conjunction with the?
What happens is I was with the KCK Police Department, and my partner, William Barajas, retired police officer,
Right.
he says, we need to bring Santiago here. Santiago is bilingual, and he knows the Hispanic culture better than anybody else.
Right.
And so ultimately, I get sworn in. I go with the DEA task force. I spent 5 years of my life with the DEA task force.
So you know the first 5 years that I knew your wife. I never saw you.
Never.
Never. The first time I actually saw you, I was at Indian Springs. You were actually a police officer at the time. You just happened to be in there with somebody else, and I don't even know if you remember it. But I had, because I always try to stop by if I'm in that area, and I had no idea who you were. And then I hear through the grapevine that, and at that time, your head was shaved, you were clean cut, and I heard you had like hair like
I used to have
shoulders.
I used to have hair past my shoulders. Sometimes I had a goatee, facial hair. And so, you know, yeah, I did a lot of UC work for not just the Kansas City Police Department, but DEA, other federal agencies,
So
local
were you
agencies.
posing as a drug dealer, or were you just trying to?
Yes, the answer to that is yes, and setting up deals with confidential sources or confidential informants. I was hired as a hitman also. You name it. So
You were hired as a hitman from just
people that wanted to eliminate people.
really.
Life is cheap.
So I gotta ask, because you know we've all seen the movies, right? So how much were you offered to end somebody's
This
life?
is not Horrible Bosses, motherfucker.
Oh my
Jones.
lord! let me. This is.
I mean, I think I'm gonna be shocked in a bad way.
Well, I tell you the truth. Life is cheap. When I say cheap,
I'm guessing.
so I'm not going to mention any names to protect
no, absolutely.
the innocent
whatever.
and the guilty. But some of that stuff is in some of the stuff made the papers. This lady wanted to eliminate her husband. So we have an informant who's got the information. Comes to the PD, or Detective Bureau, the Kansas City Detective Bureau, and they asked me if I wanted to pose as a hitman. I said, yeah, hell yeah. So if you look at my lip, I have a scar right here. And that scar, I had a hematomas there that became really hard. It's from a kick. I took a kick to my lip.
Kick to your lip?
From a kid. And it just hardened. It became very hard. And so I had it removed. And it had a bunch of stitches. And I looked really bad. So I met with this lady, the informant. And I'm trying to convince this lady. I'm in a car that is totally wired. And I'm asking for like, I don't know, $5,000. And ultimately, I end up negotiating the hit of this poor soul for $1,000.
$1,000.
$1,000. She didn't want to pay the money. But I said, well, that's.
Well, what was she thinking she was going to pay to end her husband's life?
I don't know. She just wanted the guy eliminated.
Less than $1,000.
$1,000. That's
crazy.
We came to the conclusion. She says, I'm going to do it. This is, I'll pay you $1,000. And I asked. I said, you really want me to kill your husband? I said, look, I gave you options. How would you like me to kill him? I said, I can stab him. I can shoot him. I can break into the house, burn the house down to the ground. No, don't do it. Don't do it like that. I said, I can drown him. She's like, I don't care how you kill him. But whatever you do, don't burn the house down to the ground. Because I need to get back in there and get all my credit cards so I can pay you. Sorry.
So then what happened? So you have this woman on, I'm assuming recorded somehow. Again, I'm just
He said
going
the car was wired.
I'm going off.
The car was
movies.
wired. I was
Okay.
wired. And there was a sign. And the sign, we have a distress. You always have some kind of a distress.
Sure. Yeah. So your team can come in or
Come
whatever,
in
something
and
goes south.
if you need help. And
Again, I've seen movies.
and it was just like taking a report, and getting the physical description. She actually gave me a picture of her husband. There was a picture of her and her husband, and she cut it in two halves.
Right.
Kept the half where she was, depicted, and gave me the one with her husband.
How scared shitless
Yeah,
was she?
and,
How scared shitless was she when
And
you
then I
guys-
said, well, we're good to go. When I said we're good to go, whoops. The rest of the team arrived, and she was under arrest.
Wow.
That is ridiculous.
That's amazing.
Yeah. We're so cruel to each other.
So you're undercover.
Yes.
But you start going to the Kansas City, Kansas Public Library.
Yes.
So what were you doing when you were going in there?
Well, I grew up watching every single movie that I watched in the theaters was subtitled.
Right.
The first movie that I ever watched in the theaters was Rocky with Sylvester Stallone.
Right.
I was 13 years old. My cousin takes me to the movies with her cousin on her father's side. And they lied about my age because Rocky was too violent.
Gotcha.
You have to be 14. The two of them are 18, good-looking girls. And they convinced the guy to allow me to get in. And the guy said, well, I'll let him in if you give me your number. This is before cell phones. Jesus. What, 1976, 77 when Rocky came out? Something like
way
that?
before cell phones.
Something like that when Rocky
Right.
came out. And
My party line number.
Exactly. So every single movie that I watched was always subtitled. So I grew up watching all these French movies, movies from the U.S., movies from Japan. And I went to the public library looking for the very first movie ever made by the most famous Japanese director of all time, the master of all masters, Akira Kurosawa.
That's who I thought it was.
And his first movie, believe it or not, was about the art of judo.
Oh.
Judo. It was about judo. And Kurosawa is so influential that if you have ever watched Star Wars, come on.
Everything is
based on Kurosawa's samurai movies. Any spaghetti western that you have ever watched was based on Kurosawa's films. Any film that Kurosawa ever made. The Seven Samurais became the Magnificent Seven.
Oh.
Yojimbo became a fist full of dollars. So
Just remakes and it. Yeah.
every single, so, and that's how I met Gary Huggins, the local filmmaker, Gary Huggins. But when I met Gary, I had long hair, beard, wearing the trench coat. I never told the guy that I was an undercover cop, and he probably got scared because I demanded. I remember telling the people at the front desk, the librarian, I want to know who is responsible for this amazing collection of international films that you have right here.
Right.
So they bring this guy with glasses, bald-headed dude. Gary, I'm sorry, dude, but you look like a guy. You look like powder.
That's a throwback there.
By the way,
Like
that guy,
The play powder?
that guy has a new movie that just came out
Really?
called Nefarious. He is, called Nefarious. You need to watch that movie. It's a great film. It's a master class in acting. He's actually a 4th-degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and a teacher of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's also one of the lead actors in the movie The Boondock Saints.
Sean
yeah.
Patrick Flannery.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the guy.
So most people
Love
don't put
him.
that together because of how he looked in powder.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
And,
Boondock Saints.
Yeah.
His 4th-degree black belt is under the famous Gracie family, Enzo Gracie. So he's not a joke. I mean, this guy competes to this
idea.
day. He's phenomenal. Great actor, great martial artist. But that's how I met Gary. And, I'm coming to, this is towards the end of my career as an undercover cop. And, I had beautiful hair. My hair is falling. I shave my head. Here I am. Clean shaven head. That's right. What a good-looking guy.
Back to our manscaping.
So, this guy comes to me and he says, hey, man, I'm making a movie and I would like for you to be in the movie. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I'm making a short
Now,
film.
you'd never done any acting.
Never done any acting. I think I did like a church,
Just home movies.
little acting and stuff once. And then I did something when I was in college with my ex-wife, some kind of a little show together.
Oh, okay.
Presentation.
I just thought you were going
No,
someplace else.
don't be sick. Nothing porn. But, he called me in, and I remember walking into, just an apartment.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting, he sits across me with a table. There's a table. We're sitting across each other. There is a piece of paper. We have a guy who is an amazing local filmmaker called Tuck Norris. They are also filming this thing, and he says, I want you to read that like you read a newspaper or magazine. And I read it, and then he said, he gave me some directions. Let's do it like this. I did it. And then he said, I want you to give me your own interpretation of how you will act this thing. I did it, and he says, just put the paper aside. Let's improvise this thing. And he says, you got the part. It's yours. And I figure, it's that little paper. No. And it was 20 pages. But ultimately, those 20 pages were never used because I ended up totally improvising the whole entire thing.
So, first date, name of the movie,
Yeah.
completely improvised.
Totally improvised, and it took us 6 months. We were filming during the weekends because I went off the script all the time, and Gary allowed me to do
I
that.
was say, were you driving him crazy, or was he loving that?
He loved that. Gary is like that. He loves that stuff. And
So you like randomly walking around the price chopper off of 18th Street, grabbing the lady's car keys, and the little kid trying to pull it back.
yes, and
So was this shot in KCK?
Yes.
it was
all of
shot
it.
in KCK, sir.
Really?
In KCK. Wow. We made it. I got, I can talk about this now, Gary. We made it for probably $600. we used a Panasonic, I think it was the 200B, and it was shooting on 24 frames per second, which is how films are.
Yeah.
23 point something, which is 24 frames per second. And that movie premiered at Sundance,
Yeah.
which is the biggest film festival in the U.S.
Right.
Probably only second to the Cannes Film Festival in France.
Right.
And it also played at South by Southwest, Clermont-Ferrand in France. It played all over the world. It played in every LGBTQ film festival at the time because the movie is about the perversity of this ex-con who is trying to keep a date with a minor. We didn't use a minor, by the way.
Right.
He looks like a kid, but he was 18. And I know I got a bunch of accolades for that.
Yeah.
I mean, not just from the movie people, but from people that were also protecting minors against child abuse.
So it's funny, you had come in, you had just filmed it.
Yes.
You had come into my work, which we don't mention our works on here. But you had come into my work. There was a picture of you like on the front page of the newspaper.
Yes.
You had been in like a pancake eating contest
Yes.
or something right after that.
With Jimmy.
Yeah. And I had saved the newspaper because I know I'd be seeing you. You came in and I said, I need to have you sign this for me because when you take off,
I remember
I
that.
want to have that. And I
remember that.
And I said something about this being your first, because so you signed it, and I was like, this is your first official autograph? And you go, no, it's my second one. So you went back in there and you wrote number 2.
Number 2.
On it. And I've got that, and I have it. It's in with my baseball cards and all my collectible stuff. I've got it in there.
The main newspaper in town. I don't know if I can mention the name, but
that's fine.
the Kansas City Star did they did a great article for me.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
You know, they did. They also did a great article regarding. They used to have a writer called Maria Sanchez, and the chicken tends to peck on the brightest object.
Yeah.
And I was the brightest object at that time. And that movie led to Gary was a full-time filmmaker,
Right.
using a non-actors in the film. Then that movie was seen by a dear friend of mine, now a great friend of mine, Jesus Beltran, who is a mechanical engineer for Apple from Fort Worth, Texas. First generation Mexican American, the son of Mexican immigrants, highly intelligent man. He saw the movie at South by Southwest. I think he saw it first at Sundance. And he actually sought me at South by Southwest, and he says, can I get your number and car? So I gave it to him.
Mm-hmm.
A few months later, he calls me. He was in China working for Apple. And he says to me, hey, I'm making a film, sir. Call me Mr. Vasquez. I said, just call me Santiago, man. He says, I wrote a film, and I would like for you to be part of this film. So he says, when I get to Hawaii, I will send you the film. I give him my address. He mailed me the script. It took me about a week. Ultimately, he ended up telling me, he says, I was afraid you were going to say no to me. So I read the script. I called him back, and I said, hey, man, if you give me 3 meals from Taco Bell and a place to sleep, I will make this movie for you. Whew.